You know, the Nintendo Switch is cool and all, but I'm kind of in the mood to play PlayStation games right now. But man, I'm outside and I don't want to go back in. If only there was something to solve my problem. Something portable? Ow! Portable gaming is a luxury many of us are familiar with. The idea of being able to take your favorite video games on the go was, and still is, a pretty mind-blowing concept to me. Phone games and Nintendo's long lineup of handheld hardware are probably the first things that come to your mind. But what about the ones outside of that? I mean, sure, there's stuff like the Steam Deck, or if you're a boomer like me, Tiger Electronics. But I want to talk about the PlayStation Portable, or PSP for short. Keep that in mind, we're going to be saying PSP a lot in this video. Growing up, I always wanted a PSP. A little bit of Sunnie64 childhood lore for you. I was actually pretty close to owning one of these dumb little things as a stupid kid. I remember my parents got me one as a birthday gift, even a couple games along with it. But we had guests over one night and someone actually stole it without us noticing. Tragic, I know. But I'm an adult now with money of my own to waste on silly, meaningless hobbies such as video games. And I think I've spent enough time imagining what could have been in my life if I actually had a PSP back then. So, I bought a PSP in 2025, and here's why you should too. The way I purchased one of these funny little handhelds was actually through Amazon. I found a listing selling a bunch of refurbished Japanese PSPs. Just a reminder, this isn't the only way to get these, obviously. So if you don't want to use the shopping site owned by the big bad bald man, you could always get a pre-owned one from other places, such as eBay. My PSP arrived in perfect condition though, no complaints here. First of all, make sure you purchase protection for your PSP. I actually got myself a little screen guard and this clear case. It doesn't intrude on charging or opening the tray for your universal media discs, or UMD for short. There's also fun accessories you can get for it. I recommend a TV cable adapter so you can hook it up to your TV when you're home. Though, you can tell the system's resolution wasn't exactly built for the big screen, according to the footage I'm using. Also, while I will be linking the sources for the items I bought, I may recommend looking elsewhere for other options if you can, at least for the TV adapter. I think it has some conflicts with my capture card. When I recorded footage on my capture card for PSP games, my stream chat actually referred to this as a radioactive piss filter when I was playing these on Sunnie64 Live a few weeks ago. No. Oh, and there's this memory stick-shaped microSD card adapter you can get for pretty cheap. I highly recommend this for extra storage, and you can do a little something with it that we'll get to in a moment. Also, I really recommend you get yourself some trinkets to really personify your PSP. Handhelds may come in all shapes and sizes, but there's one thing they all have in common, and that's being really fun to customize. I bought this big pack of animal stickers a while ago, and I decided to put them on a bunch of my tech. I put this cute little tiger sticker on the back of my PSP's case. It's pretty fun. There's also this little loop that you can attach a lanyard to, or even a Baby Sonic keychain. Man, remember this thing? They were released back in 2020 when the Sonic the Hedgehog live-action movie was screened in Japan. I actually own two of these things. I got one imported back when the movie first came out, and I got a second one more recently for the PSP because the original one's chain broke off and I couldn't find it to repair it. When these keychains got brought to the US of A as a part of the physical editions of Sonic Colors Ultimate, you know, just a little extra trash to go with your garbage, a lot of people began selling these little blue gremlins online for dirt cheap. I personally love this thing, despite his creepy bug-eyed expression and weird tiny rat feet. Wait, what was I talking about again? I don't typically talk about this sort of thing, but the PSP has a very robust homebrew community. That's part of why I recommend getting a microSD card adapter shaped like a PSP memory stick. You can put all sorts of fun stuff on here. Modding this thing is super easy. After this video, I highly recommend watching this extremely short guide on how to install ArcLoader from JBoy Mods, with a Z of course. You can do a lot with a hacked PSP. First thing I recommend is, if you have a Japanese PSP like I do, make sure you press select and switch the X and circle buttons to match what you're used to. If you didn't know, PlayStation systems up until the PS5 actually swapped the two buttons' purposes in Japan, so circle would be used to confirm selections instead of X. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do with a PSP, such as emulators and... FBI, open up! Oh my god! Hey, sorry about that. I guess I was just a little too open about the real reasons people actually mod their systems to play totally legitimate game backups. Anyways, to get back on topic, there's a ton of fantastic games to play on PSP. There's almost 2,000 games that were released for the handheld, and that's like more than 5. What did you expect? I draw and play video games for a living. I never said I was good at math. For this segment, I want to go over some of the many PSP games I played. This won't be an in-depth review of each game, mainly just a few recommendations and touching on a few weird or unique games. Ready? Let's go! Starting off, we have Jackass the video game. Based off of the iconic TV show of the same name, the Jackass video game is a hilarious and chaotic minigame collection. I mainly played the campaign mode where you fill the role of the new director of Jackass. You play all sorts of minigames, or stunts as the game likes to call them, with a few objectives in each similar to how the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games handles it. Get a lot of injuries, destroy stuff, finish within a set time, so on and so forth. There's some pretty fun ones here, such as wakeboarding in a neighborhood, rail grinding on the fences, driving in a golf cart mindlessly trashing a golf course and running over people, or even human pachinko, which is a personal favorite of mine. I'm a sucker for ragdoll physics in video games. Similar to the Jackass TV show, over-the-top stunts and slapstick comedy is the core of this game. It's fully rewarded to be as destructive as possible. It's a fairly simple game, but goddamn is it addictive. I highly recommend this one. Next up, we have Hot Pixel, developed by French studio Z-Slide, published by Atari. Yes, that Atari. Hot Pixel is essentially a WarioWare clone. If you don't know what that means, WarioWare and games inspired by it consist of a wide variety of micro-games, where you do a quick burst of short objectives, with the time limit getting more strict as you progress through each micro-game. While WarioWare aims for a more cartoony aesthetic, Hot Pixel aims for something just as, if not more surreal, with a weird mix of street punk-inspired artwork and Atari-inspired pixel art. You can say the pixel art aspect gives off so retro nostalgia bait energy. I personally think the simplistic, kind of crappy-looking pixel art style really adds to the weirdness of this game. Speaking of weird, there's some really unhinged live-action cutscenes scattered around this game. They don't really tell a full story, it's mainly just a collection of this guy doing random stuff. A lot of these either made me laugh or just kind of left me scratching my head, but it still got a reaction out of me. WarioWare likes are always extremely addictive to me. I had a hard time putting this game down. One thing to know, if you do play this game, you will notice that the game asks you to go on their website to download more minigames. There's 70 more minigames that were on their website back in the day. I ask that you do not go to the domain now. Hotpixel.com is long gone, and it'll just now send you to this very questionable website in a language I don't understand. Thankfully, I found a Wayback Machine archive of this game's site where the downloads still appear to work. This game is far from perfect. It has a similar problem to some WarioWare games where it can get a little too abstract for its own good, and sometimes you won't really comprehend the objective right away. Though, trial and error kind of makes that a little more tolerable. Overall, I still consider this a hidden gem on the handheld. Please give this one a try, I love it so much. Mega Man Powered Up. It's essentially a remake of the very first Mega Man game for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's the same as every other Mega Man game. You jump, you shoot, you fight Robot Masters at the end of their levels, and steal their powers to use against the next Robot Master. Oftentimes, these games have a recommended order of bosses to beat, as each one has a power-up that they're weak to. The thing that really sets this game apart from the other Mega Man titles is its very unique art style. Apparently, this sort of chibi-like visual style that they went for here was actually considered for the original NES game, but because of hardware constraints, they had to cut it. While I love the original game's art style a lot, I really enjoy this style that they went for here. It's fun, it's colorful, it's cute. What's not to love? There's even new content here. 2 additional bosses were made for this game, Time Man and, Oil Man.
Is that fucking blackface, dude?
Don't worry, he looked more racist in the Japanese version. Sadly, Powered Up was a total flop upon release. I assume it was mainly because it released very early in the PSP's life, and the system didn't exactly set the world on fire back in the day, unfortunately. The beloved creator of everyone's favorite game Mighty No. 9, Keiji Inafune, was actually considering pitching a remake of Mega Man 2 in the same style, but due to Powered Up's poor sales, those plans just fell through. Honestly, that kind of hurts to know, because Mega Man 2 is actually one of my favorite NES games and my favorite Mega Man game. Would have loved a remake of that game, just for the remixes of the soundtrack, but oh well, it is what it is. I think I'll be okay. Next up, we have Infected. Yep, one-word titles, my favorite. You're put into the role of a police officer. New York City's been taken over right before Christmas by zombies, so it's up to you to find the cure and take these zombies down in the process. It's a decently straightforward game. The gameplay is essentially a frantic third-person shooter, full of over-the-top violence and addictive arcade-style gameplay. This game definitely feels like a product of its time. It's crude, it's over-the-top, and it's packed with gore. The best part for me is, it doesn't take itself too seriously. Infected knows that it's stupid, and it's completely proud of it. Overall, I loved this game. I had a hard time putting it down while recording footage of it. The controls can be a little hard to adjust to at first because of the lack of twin sticks on the PSP, but you'll adjust fast with the simple lock-on feature it has, and you'll have a great time. I recommend this one wholeheartedly. Crush is a 3D puzzle platformer published by Sega. You follow a guy named Danny, suffering from severe insomnia. He eventually comes to this mad scientist named Dr. Rubens, who treats him with the cognitive regression utilizing Is that word fucking me up? Cognitive regression utilizing psychiatric heuristics, or Crush, for short.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
This device hypnotizes Danny, placing him in this abstract dimension that represents his mind, kind of like Psychonauts. The real meat of this game is the ability you use to complete puzzles. You can switch between the 2D and the 3D plane, a lot like Super Paper Mario. This is a pretty fun game with a creative premise. I wouldn't say it's my favorite game of this list, but it's more than worth your time if you enjoy a good puzzle platformer, with a story to keep you pretty intrigued. I had a fun time with this one. Oh look, another puzzle game! Hear me out though, this one is nothing like Crush. Quick history lesson before we get into this game though. This game was developed by Q Entertainment, with one of its founders being Tetsuya Mizuguchi, who was actually a former head of Sega's United Game Artists team, who you might know for Space Channel 5 and Rez. He eventually went on to design Tetris Effect. Lumines was sort of a project in between United Game Artists' shutdown and the beginning of Tetris Effect's production. This game feels almost like a precursor to Tetris Effect, being a puzzle game with a heavy emphasis on flashy visuals and energetic music, with your inputs being a direct influence on the music. The better you play, the better the music gets. Lumines is a total vibe. The way it works is, you connect 4 blocks to make a square shape. It's a bit more like Puyo Puyo than actual Tetris if you ask me. Overall, there's not a whole lot to say about this game. It's a fairly simple arcade puzzle game. There's a challenge mode where you can unlock like different cosmetics and stuff, but that's about it here. It's a pretty fun game though. It's not a bad thing to be simple. It's just hard to stretch a whole review of an arcade puzzle title. I seriously do recommend playing this game though. It's a total treat. For the eyes, the ears, and your hands. If you can't play this one on PSP, they actually re-released this game on current platforms with cleaner graphics. Plus, it goes on sale for very cheap pretty often. Seriously, play it. Now! Being a police officer can be pretty fun sometimes. Pursuit Force is essentially a combat racing game. You're tasked to engage in direct fights on vehicles for most of the game. A few missions I played for this video were mostly high-speed chases. You get to shoot while driving, which is pretty damn cool. Hell, you can even sometimes leap off your car and jump to your enemies, shoot them, and then steal their car to advance further in the mission. It's a bit of a simple, borderline arcadey, scripted experience at times, but it's pretty damn fun, and it can get pretty challenging at times. I've heard people describe this game as one of the toughest PSP titles. I wouldn't know for sure. I haven't had the chance to experience a lot of this game yet. I haven't had a ton of time to dedicate to this game compared to some of the other ones here in this video. But it seems like there's a bit more variety in the vehicles later on in the game. Overall, I'd still recommend giving this one a go. It's flashy, it's fast, and it's fun as hell. Also, Richard Jacques actually did the music for Pursuit Force. As one of the 5 people on Earth who actually like Sonic R, I think that's pretty cool. Modified Air Combat Heroes, or MACH for short, is an action racing game published by Vivendi Games. This was actually one of the last games they put out before being bought by Activision in less than a year later. In most racing games, you typically race on the ground, but here, you're right up in the sky on these super cool jet planes. It's the year 2049, and underground jet plane tournaments are everywhere, might as well participate. This game has 2 main modes, a combat racing mode focusing on aiming for first place, and a dogfight mode where you partake in free-for-all combat arenas, similar to the multiplayer mode you see in some Star Fox games. I haven't had the chance to play too much of this one either, but I definitely want to play more of it. MACH is super fun. The controls are slick, they're smooth, and the sense of speed is just fantastic here. And combat's fantastic too, very satisfying. Just doing me a favor. Try not to crash, because goddamn is it brutal. Oh, Jesus Christ! Sonic Rivals is a game I talked about before in my Sonic Crossworlds video. If you're unfamiliar with the forgotten duo of PSP spin-offs, Sonic Rivals was developed by Backbone Entertainment and was a fairly popular release for the handheld. You know, being Sonic, the blue speed mouse after all. Rivals isn't your typical racing game though. Instead of driving cars, you run on your big stupid feet instead. Sort of like a traditional side-scrolling Sonic game. These games are fairly fun, but I will be honest, the difficulty is beyond frustrating in both of these games. You can call that a skill issue, but rubber banding is a problem in this game. It can be brutal at times, and it's really frustrating. Sometimes the CPU player will just suddenly realize he's losing and just immediately fold you. If you saw my PSP game stream I did a few weeks ago, it was a complete nightmare fighting bosses in Sonic Rivals 2. I know I'm bitching about Rivals a lot, but I do still like these games. I just need to remind you that. The controls are solid, the level design isn't bad, and I like the music a lot, especially the main theme of Sonic Rivals 2, Race to Win. And some of the character interactions and voice acting in Rivals 2 are pretty nice. It's just, the difficulty spikes prevent me from truly loving this game as much as I desperately want to. It always makes me wonder what could have been if we got a proper 2D Sonic game on the PSP instead of just the Rivals games. Apparently, this prototype of a Sonic Generations PSP port surfaced online. Sadly, the disc was severely damaged, likely due to the way it was stored for years, so little to nothing of the actual game was actually able to be recovered, beyond just a few logos showing the game's early title, Sonic Anniversary. I often think about what could have been, but it's no use dwelling on the past. Anyways, I would say the Sonic Rivals games are at least worth a try. Don't expect anything easy, you'll have a tough time with this game, but it has some fun aspects, such as collecting character cards. You have this massive variety of cards you can collect as rewards, featuring all sorts of fun artwork to look at. There's some cool references and some pretty deep cuts here. One of my favorite cards in this game being Maria Robotnik. For some reason they used this image for her card, which is actually a still from a lost deleted scene from 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog. Originally, Sonic Team was planning for Shadow the Hedgehog to have a T for teen rating. They wanted to have this scene where Maria gets killed on screen. However, they decided to remove this scene and a few other elements to soften the game down and dial it to a E10+ rating. This screenshot is actually the only part of the scene to surface online, and for some ungodly reason, Backbone decided to use this as her card in here. I'm not sure why. Fun fact though, Sega themselves actually referenced this frame in some of their recent Sonic Symphony shows. I actually witnessed it firsthand when I went to one of their 2024 shows. Is it still a fun fact if I'm literally talking about a child being killed? Okay, how about something light? Activision's Greatest Hits is a little collection of old Atari games that Activision made back in the 80s. It's essentially a handheld version of their PlayStation 2 collection, Activision Anthology. I know these games may not look like much, some of these games didn't age the best, but there's still some pretty fun games in here. I especially love Pitfall. It's a little mindless by today's standards, but I think it holds up pretty well as a little time waster. I mean, that's what video games were always meant to be, right? Nothing wrong with a game being simple or short, you know? One of my favorite things about this collection is the pool of actual licensed 80s music. I can't play any of it here for copyright reasons, obviously, but honestly, it's a really comforting, chill vibe to play these games while listening to music from the same time period it all released in. I wouldn't say this one is a must-play for most people, but I personally really like the chill vibes this one gives off. Mindlessly running in Pitfall while listening to some absolute bangers is a nice time. Maybe go for this one if you like the sound of that. One of the many releases from the compilation of Final Fantasy VII series, Crisis Core is essentially a spin-off prequel to the events of Final Fantasy VII, the original PlayStation 1 RPG that everybody knows and loves. I hope. You play as Zack, a quirky manlet with a big sword and an even bigger heart.
Me? Gungaga.
As you aid the Shinra Corporation's war efforts. This is a real-time action RPG, similar to something like Kingdom Hearts, just not as free-flowing and floaty. However, this game uses a smaller-scale mission-based structure, instead of a large open world like the console RPGs would have. I know some people might dislike this structure, but I personally think it lends well to the handheld experience. Overall, this one is an instant recommendation, anyone will tell you that. That might just be my love for Final Fantasy VII showing. It's got satisfying, flashy combat, some really fun world building, though it sometimes feels like it expects you to have played the original FF7 to understand, and the music is pretty solid. Fun game, though if you want to play this game without a PSP, you can always play Crisis Core Reunion, a modern HD remake of the original. It's essentially the same game, just with questionable new voice acting.
Shut up!
All that awaits you.
Shut up! I'm I'm warning you!
Loosely based off of the 10th anniversary special movie of the same name, SpongeBob's Truth or Square video game is sort of a celebration of SpongeBob history. Many of the levels are vague adaptations of popular episodes from the first 3 or so seasons. The game itself isn't anything mind-blowingly great though. This game was developed by Heavy Iron Studios, a developer known and beloved for their work on SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom and the game adaptation of the 2004 SpongeBob film. Sadly, Truth or Square is kind of their weakest game of the series. It's still pretty fun and very polished, but the game feels like it was very rushed. It's their shortest and most linear game. The reason why I brought up the PSP version for this video is actually because it's kind of its own beast. It's a somewhat sloppy port of the console game, likely built off of an earlier build of the original, handled by a separate developer named Barking Lizards Technologies. The main reason why I would recommend this version is actually because it contains additional levels not seen in the console version. It has this sort of downtown night level, and a level that takes place inside the Krusty Krab right before the final boss. This level actually kind of fixes a small plot hole in the console version where SpongeBob realizes that he left the formula at the Krusty Krab safe, but because they cut it in the game, he just kind of randomly remembers it there. These levels were actually planned for the console versions. In trailers before release, there's actually snippets of footage where SpongeBob's in the Krusty Krab, which you can't see in the final game. I imagine these were mostly cut due to time constraints. Maybe the PSP port team just had an opportunity to finish whatever Heavy Iron had planned for these. If you played the other versions or never touched a single version of this game, I would still give this one a try. Seriously though, give this one a go, especially if you're a fan of the funny Yellow Man or just want a short but sweet 3D platformer for the handheld. Ape Escape is a pretty legendary series, but for those who might need an introduction, it was essentially Sony's take on Super Mario 64. You could say that would be Crash Bandicoot, but Ape Escape's structure is more Mario-like than anything. It's a fully 3D platformer collectathon where instead of collecting giant glowy stars, you catch monkeys! Ape Escape on the Loose is essentially a remake of the original PS1 game. As this game was heavily designed with the, at the time, newly introduced DualShock control sticks, the remake had to make a couple slight tweaks to the controls, since you only have this nubby little stick instead of 2. It's still a pretty fun game. It holds up pretty well in my opinion. Ape Escape on the Loose was actually one of the PSP games I was gonna have growing up. I still have my copy today. I was also gonna have SpongeBob the Yellow Avenger, and I was gonna cover it for this video, but I'm gonna be honest, I really didn't care enough about the game to even give it a full review. Anyways, Ape Escape on the Loose, or no matter what version you play, it's worth your time. But it may not click with you right away, especially if you're used to more traditional 3D platformer controls. Parappa the Rapper is a game that shouldn't need much introduction, but screw it, I'll give one anyways. Designed by Matsaya Matsura and brought to life with artwork from Rodney Allen Greenblatt, Parappa the Rapper is generally considered to be the very first true rhythm game. You know, before Friday Night Funkin'. The story follows Parappa, a paper-thin cartoon rapping dog who tries his hardest to improve himself as a person so he can win the love of a flower girl named Sunnie Funny. I promise there's no relation, we just have the same first name. The game itself is kind of like Simon Says. The other character will give you inputs to play and you can repeat it, though this game gives you a lot of freedom to play with whatever inputs you like. Hell, the game will sometimes reward you with extra points if you make something good, and hey, if you make something great, you'll be rewarded with Cool Mode, where you can simply freestyle without any interruptions, as long as you keep the momentum going. It's a game that's light on content but makes up for it with its heart and humor. There's a lot of hilarious cutscenes in here, some just really surreal moments that I can't even describe, you just have to see it for yourself. You can argue that this game aged poorly, but I still think it's a great time. I recommend any version of this game. I mainly wanted to touch upon the PSP port because it's actually the version the PlayStation 4 remaster is emulating with a 4K texture pack. There's actually some content on this version that was cut from the PS4 version, mainly the local multiplayer mode. From what I've seen, it's essentially just a score attack mode where you and your friends can compete for the best rap. Also, the PS4 version includes the bundle of DLC music that the PSP version first introduced. The way you got these songs in the original PSP version was going on a Parappa-themed web page. Sadly, the page is long gone, but thankfully the download link to the songs is very well archived and it's very simple to install. I think it's worth the effort. There's some goofy little remixes here. Okay. Yeah. Oh wait, that song's not in this version. If you don't know Crazy Taxi, first of all, you're missing out. But Crazy Taxi is one of my favorite games ever. Originally being one of Sega's many iconic arcade games, it's essentially a score attack game where you play the role of a cab driver of your choice. I personally love BD Joe, I adore his energy. You drive around a massive city to pick up and drop off customers as quickly as possible. This game does reward you plenty for weaving through traffic, drifting, jumping off ramps, so on and so forth. It's a pretty basic and easy to get into gameplay structure. Crazy Taxi Fare Wars is essentially a bundle consisting of the first 2 Crazy Taxi games. Crazy Taxi 2 was originally made to be exclusive to Sega Dreamcast, never on arcades, with this PSP port being sadly the only time this game ever got a re-release. Personally, I love these games. I never really got to play Crazy Taxi 2, mainly because Sega cares only really to re-release the first game. Crazy Taxi 2 introduces some great improvements, such as the ability to carry multiple customers at once, and this awesome jumping move. Whee! Unfortunately, the Fare Wars re-release removes a lot of this game's original music. Crazy Taxi is known for its iconic song choices, consisting of a lot of fast-paced punk rock music, most notably songs from The Offspring and Bad Religion. Crazy Taxi was actually my introduction to these bands, so it's a shame they don't really stick around for these releases, though the songs replacing them are pretty good too. Though, I will say, at the very least, Fare Wars allows you to use custom music during playtime if you enable it in options. You can play any song you want and still drive around like a maniac. It's pretty fun. You might be wondering, how does the custom music work? Well... The PlayStation Portable isn't just a gaming system. This was around the time when gaming hardware was beginning to adopt more of a general media player approach. And the PSP was no different. Back in the day, some companies would actually re-release movies on the UMD format, allowing you to just pop it into your disc tray and watch it from there. Hell, you can even just directly put video files onto your PSP, though that can be a little iffy. I recommend looking up guides on how to install it in the right video format. But it does work. You can watch your favorite movies or television shows on here anytime, and even install your favorite songs onto it, making it a funny little media player. There were even a lot of fun peripherals made for the system, such as a GPS. Apparently, these things still work too, though I don't have my hands on one, so I'm using footage from someone else here. Now, you sitting there watching this video, you might be thinking, why are you talking about this? Smartphones do all this nowadays, it's not special anymore. And you know what? You're right. But it's still pretty cool to me, so shut up, nerd. I think the PSP is pretty damn cool. It's got a sleek design, an iconic system menu, fun features, and a massive library of games to enjoy that all still hold up quite well. I only covered a small fraction of the games I enjoyed on here. I had to cut a few for time, but eventually I would love to come back and share more of the PSP games I had a great time with. There's some fantastic games on here that I just can't recommend enough. It kind of seems like PSPs are back in style to a degree, and I think the reason is bigger than you might believe. I don't think it's solely just Zoomers and Millennials desperately trying to go back to the good old days, or just because it's comically easy to mod your PSP. Seriously, it took me like 3 minutes to do it. I think it's because the PSP still holds up really well, and at the time there really wasn't anything like it, and if you ask me, there's still nothing like it. Back in the day, everybody just wanted to be the next Game Boy or the next Nintendo DS, and I can really admire Sony for trying to cash in on that market, and still doing a great job at standing out among its competition by being different. Also, I can't help but miss the days when handhelds actually could fit in your pocket. As much as I love the Nintendo Switch family of systems, I feel like these things were designed mainly with big, meaty adult hands in mind, so these things are absolutely massive compared to the PSP. There's been a lot of talk of Sony possibly dipping its toes back into the portable gaming market again. Personally, I don't know if I should let myself be excited for Sony's future. It really feels like the PS5 generation did a lot of alienating towards its older fans, especially fans of their Japan Studio titles, such as myself. Japan Studio was a fantastic developer. Sure, they weren't perfect, but they were unique. They made a lot of great games for the system that I still hold as some of my favorites, such as Ape Escape or Parappa the Rapper. Hell, Japan Studio was essentially the main support for the PSP, making tons of games for it. Earlier this year, there was actually a leaked trailer for a cancelled game of theirs that surfaced online. It's called Stamp. I recommend taking a look at it. It's quite interesting. It's kind of hard to be excited for Sony's future without their most unique developer. I'm not really interested in their Western-developed story games. I think they're slop! I'm just gonna say this. If Sony wants somebody like me to support their next system, make a new Parappa the Rapper game. I'm being 100% serious. Anyways, to wrap up, the PSP is a fantastic handheld, and I encourage all of you to at least consider getting into it. Let me know if this video convinced you at all. If you're already a fan of it, tell me your favorite PSP games in the comments. Hell, maybe we can discuss recommendations or something. I love having discussions with you guys in the comments, and maybe I can consider some of the suggestions for a future PSP video covering more strange and stylish games. There's quite a lot of games I had to overlook just for the sake of my sanity while working on this script. Before I go, I just want to remind you all that I stream every Saturday around 5:30 p.m. US Central Time. Come check it out if you can, it's a lot of fun. We just play games and shoot the shit. Maybe check out my Let's Play channel too. I'm planning to start making stream highlight clips to put on there sometime. Maybe submit one of your own edits too if you'd like. It would help a lot. Don't forget to follow my socials for updates, announcements, and all sorts of fun stuff I make, like these weird flashy Sonic drawings I get bullied for making sometimes. Alright, that's all for now. I've been Sunnie64, and you've been awesome if you made it to the end of this one. I'll see you around. I gotta get back to playing Sonic Rivals 2 on my PlayStation Portable. Son of a bitch!